You've seen her face on magazines, watched her charitable work transform lives, and likely mourned her untimely passing. But before Diana became a royal icon, she was a child of Althorp. Thus, when you step onto these grounds, you're entering the world that moulded a princess. And the sprawling Northamptonshire estate you see today began as pastureland, transformed by generations of the legendary Spencer family's ambition into an aristocratic showpiece. Yet for all Althorp's storied history and aristocratic grandeur, most visitors come searching for Diana, the estate's most beloved daughter, whose spirit still seems to dance through these ancestral grounds. Therefore, in today's episode of Old Money Mansions, we explore Althorp, the majestic ancestral home of Princess Diana. Should you ever walk through the grounds of Althorp, you'll immediately grasp why this sprawling estate shaped the woman who would captivate the world as Princess Diana. Set amid 13,000 acres of lush Northamptonshire countryside, this grand country house sits about 6 miles northwest of Northampton and 75 miles northwest of central London. You'll approach the house along a handsome avenue, beautifully shaded trees, passing through one of several lodge gates that have welcomed visitors for centuries. The house that greets you is a Grade 1 listed architectural marvel. It's cleverly clad in mathematical tiles that give the impression of brickwork. 4 magnificent Corinthian pilasters made from rock abbey stone in Yorkshire adorn the front facade, stone reportedly intended by Christopher Wren for St Paul's Cathedral before the Spencer family acquired it. Step inside and you'll find yourself in Wootton Hall, an entrance so grand that Sir Nicholas Pevsner called it the noblest Georgian room in the country, with its soaring ceiling and striking black-white check marble floor. Young Diana would practice her tap dancing here, taking advantage of the exceptional acoustics created by that same marble floor where you now stand. As you explore, your eyes will be drawn to the pair of Italian black and Basquiat marble blackamoor torchères flanking a doorway, Roman artifacts discovered in the silt of the River Tiber that once illuminated imperial homes. Beyond lies the saloon, converted from an inner courtyard in 1650, featuring an imposing oak staircase that would have witnessed Diana's childhood footsteps countless times. The picture gallery will stop you in your tracks, stretching an impressive 115 feet along the first floor of the West Wing, housing some 60 portraits, including works by Van Dyck and Sir Peter Lely. You might smile at the south drawing room's duck-egg blue walls and peach-patterned sofas, a space gilded to within an inch of its life that once served as a dining room despite being as far from the kitchen as possible. Bibliophiles will appreciate the library, formerly home to one of Europe's largest private collections with 110,000 volumes, evidence of the intellectual ambitions that ran alongside the Spencer family's social prominence. Outside, the gardens will capture your imagination. Initially designed by French landscape architect André Le Notre, who also created the famous gardens at Versailles. As you wander further, you'll discover the round oval lake with its small island where Diana now rests, surrounded by tranquil waters that, in her brother's words, act as a buffer against the interventions of the insane and ghoulish. Across from the lake stands a dignified, Doric-style temple with Diana's name inscribed at the top, offering visitors a place to reflect and leave tributes. Inside this temple, you'll find a black silhouette of Diana set in white marble, with tablets displaying both a quote about her charitable work and Charles Spencer's moving tribute from her funeral. As the afternoon light plays against Althorp's honey-coloured facade and dapples through the ancient trees that have witnessed centuries of Spencer family history, you can't help but wonder how a family of sheep farmers built such a magnificent legacy that would one day produce the most famous Spencer of all. The transformation of Althorp from humble settlement to aristocratic showpiece begins with a simple entry in the Domesday Book of 1086, where it appears as Althorp, a name referring to a medieval lord named Ola. Over centuries, this name morphed through variations like Holtrop and Aldrop, before reaching its current form. Though Charles Spencer notes his father insisted the family pronounces it Althorp rather than the commonly heard Althorp. By 1377, Althorp had grown into a modest village with more than 50 residents, but strangely by 1505 every tenant had vanished, leaving the land ripe for a new purpose. Enter Sir John Spencer, a shrewd businessman who had been grazing his profitable sheep flocks at Althorp since 1486 and seized the opportunity to purchase the entire estate for £800 from the Catesby family in 1508. This savvy investment established what would become a Spencer dynasty, spanning 19 generations, transforming wool profits into aristocratic prominence through a remarkable display of business acumen and social climbing. The original Tudor house, built by Sir John, was a classically beautiful red brick structure, visible in a Johannes Vostermans painting from 1677 that shows a far more modest building than today's imposing mansion. Everything changed in 1688 when Robert Spencer, the second Earl of Sunderland, rebuilt the house in its current form, though even this substantial structure would undergo dramatic renovations in later years. Architect Henry Holland orchestrated the most significant transformation in 1788, encasing the original brick in mathematical tiles and adding the 4 distinctive Corinthian pilasters that now define the house's classical facade. Holland's renovations extended to the grounds as well, draining a lake where the first Earl had once floated full-sized Venetian gondolas and removing the last traces of a defensive moat that had surrounded the earlier house. The family's rising status demanded grander facilities, leading Charles, the 5th Earl of Sunderland, to commission architect Roger Morris in the early 1730s to design the mustard yellow stable block in fashionable Palladian style. Robert Spencer's elevation to become the first Baron Spencer of Wormleighton by King James I in 1603 marked an important step in the family's social ascent, with reports suggesting he had become the richest man in England through his sheep enterprises. Royal recognition reached its peak in 1765 when John Spencer was created Earl Spencer by King George III, cementing the family's place among Britain's elite and establishing their tradition of political influence. Later generations continued to enhance the property, with the Red Earl commissioning a grand dining room in 1877, inspired by the ballroom of Buckingham Palace, complete with walls hung in faded red damask silk. The landscape received equal attention from prestigious designers, beginning with the renowned French landscape architect André Le Notre, who had designed the gardens at Versailles before laying out Althorp's park and grounds in the 1660s. A map from 1709 shows Le Notre's vision realized, with formal walled gardens, rectangular flower beds, and impressive tree-lined avenues extending the house's influence across the surrounding countryside. The grounds evolved again under William Milford Tulin from 1860 onwards, including the creation of the Round Oval Lake in 1868, a water feature that would gain unexpected significance more than a century later. As sheep pastures transformed into aristocratic parkland and a simple farmhouse grew into a palace, the Spencer family themselves evolved from agricultural entrepreneurs to cultural powerhouses, soon turning their country retreat into one of England's most vibrant hubs of politics, art, and literary obsession. The 18th century transformed Althorp from a mere county estate into a buzzing cultural epicenter where England's political, artistic, and intellectual elite gathered under the ambitious hosting of the Spencer family. John Spencer, the first Earl, established Althorp's reputation for extravagant entertainment, throwing parties so legendary that his Christmas celebration of 1755 has echoed through the centuries of family lore. That particular Yuletide extravaganza saw John celebrate his 21st birthday with a grand ball, where he secretly married 18-year-old Margaret Georgiana Poyntz, the couple keeping their nuptials hidden from guests for several days while the festivities continued. For the local villagers, the Spencers organised a massive celebration in Brington, where 5,000 guests consumed an astonishing 11,000 pints of beer, while inside Althorp, French chefs prepared elaborate meals for the aristocratic guests. John's spending habits extended far beyond entertainment, reportedly investing £120,000 in a single political campaign, a sum so astronomical for the period that it reveals both the family's immense wealth and their social ambitions. At Althorp's summer garden parties, John hired musicians to play French horns, while guests participated in what Charles Spencer described as a Hooray Henry Olympics, featuring donkey races, dance competitions, and sack races with cash prizes. Following John's death in 1783, his son George John, the second Earl Spencer, developed a different but equally expensive passion, creating one of Europe's most extraordinary private libraries. What began as a childhood interest in books blossomed into a full-blown obsession as George attempted to collect every volume ever published in Britain, eventually amassing a staggering 110,000 volumes. His collection outgrew the 5 apartments designated as the Long Library in Althorp's West Wing, forcing books to overflow into the picture gallery despite the library's impressive dimensions of approximately 200 feet in length. George's hunger for rare volumes led him to import Greek and Latin classics and acquire entire collections, including that of Count Charles de Revitsky in 1790, purchasing through an arrangement of £1,000 up front plus annual payments. No price seemed too high for certain treasures. George eagerly acquired a 1423 woodcut of Sir Christopher, the Papal Indulgence Letters of 1452, the Mazarin Bible of 1455, and the prized Mentz Psalter of 1457. His competitive collecting spirit was evident in 1812, when he engaged in a fierce bidding war with his cousin, the Duke of Marlborough, over a rare Boccaccio's Decameron from 1471. Marlborough won with a ludicrous bid of over £2,000, but later sold it to George at a substantial discount. The collection became so vast and valuable that in 1802, George hired Reverend Thomas Frognall Dibdin as an official librarian, just to catalogue and manage the sprawling literary treasure. Althorp during this golden age hosted gathering of Britain's creative minds, with actor David Garrick, historian Edward Gibbon, playwright Richard Brinsley Sheridan, and painter Joshua Reynolds all enjoying the Spencer family's hospitality. Even Charles Spencer, the third Earl of Sunderland, described by contemporaries as a youth of extraordinary hopes, continued the family's literary passion, further expanding the library that had come to define Althorp's cultural significance. But the Spencer family's magnificent spending on books, art, politics and entertainment eventually caught up with them. By George John's death in 1834, he had accumulated debts of £500,000, an amount that would haunt future generations. While Althorp glittered as a social and intellectual powerhouse through the 18th century, financial storms gathered on the horizon. Yet who could have predicted that this storied estate would one day face its greatest challenge, not from creditors, but from the global spotlight that would follow the most beloved Spencer of all? Modern Althorp balances its dual identity as both ancestral family home and international memorial site, with Charles Spencer, the 9th Earl and Diana's younger brother, carefully managing these competing roles since inheriting the estate in 1992. Charles faced immediate financial challenges upon becoming the estate's guardian, with Althorp reportedly losing £400,000 annually and requiring difficult staffing reductions from its team of 14 employees. His innovative approach to estate management includes founding the annual Althorp Literary Festival in 2003, bringing authors and book lovers to the property in a nod to the Spencer family's historical literary connections. A massive restoration project in 2009 consumed approximately £10 million to repair the roof, stonework and mathematical tiles, highlighting the extraordinary expense of maintaining such an architectural treasure. Financial necessities prompted Charles to organise a 2010 auction of over 700 items from Althorp's attics and cellars, including a valuable Rubens painting, generating £21 million toward the estate's preservation. Everything changed for Althorp on August 31, 1997, when Diana's tragic death transformed her childhood home into something far more significant in the public imagination: the final resting place of the People's Princess. Following her funeral at Westminster Abbey, Diana returned to Althorp one last time on September 6, 1997 for a private burial attended only by her former husband, sons, mother, siblings, a close friend and a clergyman. She was laid to rest wearing a black woolen cocktail dress by designer Catherine Walker, with rosary beads in her hands, a gift from Mother Teresa, and a photograph of her sons on the serene island within the round oval lake. Before the burial, the Bishop of Peterborough consecrated this ground, creating a sacred space marked now by a simple white memorial plinth and urn, visible from the shore but deliberately inaccessible to maintain the privacy Diana so rarely experienced in life. Garden designer Dan Pearson sensitively prepared the estate for public visitation, planting 36 oak trees along the access road, one for each year of Diana's life, and adding 100 white rambling roses on the island with 1,000 white water lilies surrounding it. From 1998 to 2013, visitors could explore a Diana exhibition housed in the stable block, featuring 6 rooms that chronicled her life, from childhood through her royal marriage and humanitarian work. The exhibition included personal artifacts like her tuck box, toy typewriter, ballet shoes, childhood photo album, and the famous David Emmanuel wedding dress she wore on July 29, 1981. Its closure in 2013 reportedly reflected concerns about commercial exploitation of Diana's memory, with the displayed items intended to be returned to her sons William and Harry. Today, visitors experience Althorp only during its limited summer opening, July 1st through August 30th, paying upward of £17.50 to access the grounds and more to tour the staterooms. While guests can view the lake and memorial temple, the island itself remains a sanctuary, allowing the family private visits while giving the public a place for reflection and remembrance. Reviews from visitors reveal mixed experiences, with praise for the knowledgeable staff but occasional criticism of pricing compared to other historic homes, highlighting the challenges of balancing commercial reality with respectful commemoration. Beyond its memorial function, Althorp continues its agricultural heritage across its 13,000 acres, the very same land where Sir John Spencer's sheep once grazed more than 5 centuries ago, a living connection to the enterprising spirit that built this remarkable legacy that continues to evolve with each generation, while honouring the most famous daughter of the Spencer line who found her lasting peace in the heart of these ancestral grounds. And now, we'd like to see you in the comments. Which room or feature of Althorp House would you most want to explore if you had the chance to visit? We love hearing your personal taste, so let us know below. With that said, thanks for joining us for another episode, and cheers! Until the next one.